How do you feel after the class?
I feel like I've been through a car wash for my body, and it's like a cleansing. I was just saying that the first half an hour felt really good. I felt a sense of grace just following what you were doing, and then the heat started to get the better of me. So I just gave myself permission to pause, have a sip of water, and then just do what I could and have a bit of other type of grace for yourself. And so yeah, it was a nice reminder to not be so hard on yourself, but to pause, take a moment, and then do what you can. And I got a second win, so I felt an overwhelming sense of joy, and especially as I knew it was coming to an end. But also that I haven't aged as much as I thought I had from the last time I did this workout. So thank you. Really appreciate the 55 minutes in the car wash with you.
Welcome to Move, Sweat, Discover, the podcast where fitness meets self-discovery. My name is Abby, and today we have Brad Wharakura, who was the quintessential face of Pure, one of Asia's largest premium lifestyle brands, which includes Pure Fitness, yoga, and nude food. He rose through the ranks when he joined in 2002 as a group fitness instructor to group fitness director. In his 15-year career with Pure, he helped build out from one gym to multiple locations across Hong Kong, Shanghai, Beijing, and Singapore. In 2022, he made the brave decision to leave his empire behind and move to Australia, where he resides today. Brad is also more than king of group fitness. In 2015, Clock and Flap, an annual music and arts festival in Hong Kong, came knocking at his door, and out stepped Madam Mincemeat, the queen of all drag queens here in Hong Kong. So Madam Mincemeat's website reads, subversive and ridiculous, Madam Mincemeat is the ideal antidote for the seriousness of life. And with that, I introduce Mr. Brad Wharakura.
Oh my God. I wasn't expecting that. Wow.
Coulda, shoulda, Wharakura.
That's me.
Right? So I should also mention to everybody that, Brad, you are one of my dear, dear friends in life. We've known each other since 2002, pretty much when you came to Hong Kong.
2004, babes.
2004.
Yeah,
Is that right?
It feels like it's been long.
Okay. Well, it's been that long anyway.
Yeah.
It's been 20 plus years.
Yeah.
I feel like we know each other because a friend of ours in common introduced us. She was like, I know someone that's gay. I know someone that's gay. Let's put them together and like maybe they will date and like have fun. And we did have fun.
Yeah.
A lot of fun, not in that sense. But we just became best friends. And I did read something. I did listen to something. When I started this podcast, it was like, you should never interview your friends.
Oh, well, dang.
So I ripped the Band-Aid off.
Okay. Well, can I just say I'm so happy to be here. I'm so proud of this podcast that you've started, and just hearing you talk about, my life, it's just really odd because you've been such a big part of it.
Yeah.
So it feels like a full circle moment from those early beginnings, moving to Hong Kong and then to this present day. It's surreal.
Well, I mean, I feel like you've not changed. I mean, you've obviously grown, but I feel like that first time I met you, you've really been just this larger than life character, so full of energy, so full of passion, so full of infectious positivity.
Infectious.
You've always had this kind of like, I would say, performative side to you. Like you're a natural born entertainer. I guess a crowd pleaser, if you will. I wanted to start by asking what drives that side of you.
Yeah, crowd pleaser. I think it's just people pleaser, if you want to boil it down.
Yeah.
So like, the classic trying to please people, trying to, make people feel at ease. And I guess all throughout my life, I've kind of been the class clown. I love to make people laugh and, poke fun at things. And that has lent itself to me pursuing, performing in front of crowds. And I think that's what led me to doing group fitness, because in a sense, you've got a captive audience, you've got a stage, and an opportunity to connect with people. And that's always brought me a sense of self-worth, I guess. But yeah, if I want to boil it down, it's just being a good old-fashioned people pleaser.
Well, let's dig into this journey where you've kind of gone from, you know, your humble beginnings in New Zealand to where you are now. I feel like you're in your self-aware era,
Yeah.
I feel. But it always hasn't been that way.
Yeah, no, I mean, I, like everybody, is just trying to figure themselves out. As you say, I'm from a small town in New Zealand.
Ngāruawāhia.
Ngāruawāhia,
Is that how I pronounce it? Did I pronounce it properly?
Well done. Good effort.
It's like quite near Auckland, right?
It's smack dab in the middle of the North Island. It's, yeah, a bit south of Auckland, but it's kind of like the seat of the Kingitanga movement, which is, because I'm part Māori, my father's family is Māori. And it's a town that had the Māori Queen. That was her hometown. Turanga Waiwai Marae was famous for kind of being the home of the Kingitanga movement. And so, yeah, I mean, coming from that small town, and also being biracial, I'd never felt Māori enough or brown enough.
Okay.
And it's generally not the case, because with Māori culture, if you're even a slither of Māori, you're Māori, like you're considered Māori. We all trace our whakapapa or our lineage back, and that's how we connect with a lot of people. But yeah, in that small town, I never felt at ease, because it was such a staunch seat of Māoridom, and I never spoke the language. And it was kind of at a time where Māori language was just starting to become more popular, or people were starting to learn it again, because for the longest time it was discouraged for people like my dad. His generation, they were told not to speak Māori, and it was discouraged. And I think there was a sense of shame from him having not been able to speak Māori, and kind of bled into our experience. Not to blame him or anything, but yeah, it was an interesting place to grow up, because it was a very small town. I think 4,000 people was the population.
I was assuming, because it's so close to Auckland, that it's this like bougie kind of like affluent area, because, you know, there's the Real Housewives of Auckland. So there's no Real Housewives of Ngāruawāhia.
No, I think
soon.
there's this place called the Bombay Hills. So south of the Bombays is when you're no longer in Auckland and you're a country bumpkin.
Okay.
So, and then Auckland was always like the big smoke growing up, and would go there a few times as kids, you know. But no, definitely a small town boy.
Right. So what were you like growing up as a child? I mean, I know a little bit. I know a few stories. And if you don't say any of those stories, I might bring them out.
Oh my gosh, I do know you know a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm the eldest of three boys, and we're quite close in age. So there's like 2 years apart between each brother. And going back to the town I grew up in, it was very like a rugby league town. So my younger brothers used to play rugby league as kids, and my dad would be the coach and my mom would be the manager. And they'd go off on a Saturday morning and play their games while I'd stay at home watching music videos and dancing to Madonna. And then I'd like do housework and clean up the house, so that, you know, when they came home, at least, you know, I had accomplished something for the day, you know, trying to please my parents, I guess, because, you know, my brothers were talented players.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of would wear towel on my head like it was hair, and so, you know, I would spend some time alone, you know, just exploring my queerness, but not actually realizing what it was.
So when your brothers were all playing rugby, and you were dancing around with a towel on your head to Madonna, what were your parents saying?
They didn't know. So, you know, because they were out at the game. So I guess I hit it well. And I don't think they ever had an inkling, although there was an occasion where my neighbors and I, this girl that lived a few doors down, we would be into Gem and the Holograms. And I think we put on a performance in the backyard to the Gem tape. She had a cassette tape with all their songs. And we had scarves, and we put chairs out on the lawn. And I would do like a scarf dance. So even though I was trying to hide it, I don't think I was doing a very good job.
So this performative character has been very prevalent
Yeah, I guess so.
since
You'd
the
say.
early days.
Yeah.
Okay. And what about like kind of movement and fitness? Were you, other than kind of like dancing and running around, were you
Yeah,
into, or?
I guess in primary school, I would dabble in sports like field hockey and soccer. I didn't like the full contact sport like rugby league or rugby because it was too intimidating for me. And then when I got to high school, we did like aerobic dance competitions. So in the 90s, aerobics was like huge, you know.
Okay.
So it'd be like a 2-minute routine and you'd wear leotards, like spandex.
What do you mean aerobics routine? Like kind of like, what was her name? Jane Fonda.
Yeah, but it was that same era, and it was competitive aerobics. So you'd have 2 minutes and some compulsory moves. Like you'd have to do 4 high kicks,
Okay.
and then like 4 push-ups, and then 4 sit-ups. But you have to put your own artistic interpretation on these moves. And there was like extra moves like Cossack jumps, and
Oh, wow.
yeah, it was quite intense. And so our school in Narrawahia, we entered into some competitions and got some regional titles and went to nationals, and it kind of was a thing. And I guess what was great about it is a lot of straight guys from my school were competing and participating in this.
Okay.
So it was kind of acceptable for, you know, me to be doing it and not be cast as like, you know, being too gay or too effeminate.
Yeah.
It was like, well, you're winning competitions and the guys from the rugby team are doing it as well. So
Yeah.
it must be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the queerness of it all. At what stage in your life did you realize, or did you start to think about?
I guess I'd always known, and I wouldn't say I was bullied per se as a kid for being different or being more effeminate, because I would hide behind being funny or being intelligent or smart, because I would be quite scholarly and well behaved in that respect. And I wasn't bullied for that. I think I was respected for it. And being artistic as well, as into painting, and in high school did reasonably well with my school certificate
Yeah.
art exams. So all of these artistic pursuits and scholastic pursuits kind of took away the focus of me being, you know, maybe queer or gay. But with my identity, I would focus on those rather than, you know, trying to hide my queerness. I think I'd just call it, you know, when they say, oh, he's just artistic or he's just sensitive or he's just creative, I would lean into that more.
Yeah.
And try not to think too much about how that would translate to being gay or queer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you feel like, if anything, was there any challenges for you, like living authentically?
Yes, I guess I always never felt fully myself, and the people pleasing is me either watering myself down for someone else's comfort, or not trying to stick out in that way, or deflecting attention to something else or someone else. I never felt like I was threatened or like in danger, you know, from coming out fully. And I guess in my generation, it was off the back of, you know, the AIDS pandemic, and, you know, people were starting to change their minds around how, you know, being queer or gay wasn't a death sentence, or you weren't associated with, you know, the pain of all of that.
Yeah.
So I felt like the timing of it was going to work in my favor somehow or another. And I just said to myself, I'll come out when I no longer live at home and, you know, I'm living by myself and I'm independent.
Yeah.
Because I guess I just felt a sense of shame having to be that while being under my parents' roof.
Right.
Yeah.
So like almost a sense of responsibility to
Keep the peace and to
Yeah.
keep everything, normal, so to speak. So yeah, you're right, to not upset my parents in that way.
yeah. Did you feel like almost in a sense that they knew?
Well, yeah, of course. I think the one person I cared about the most was my dad, because he was such a traditional man. Like he worked in a meat processing factory, and he worked long hours, and he was like the breadwinner, and
Yeah.
played rugby league and went to the pub, and just was this man. And I just felt like I was none of those things. And so, father-son relationships are tricky for everybody, I guess, and everyone has their own dynamic. And I think I was just wanting his approval at the end of the day. And knowing that I never saw anything in myself and him, that's what I was afraid of.
And when you finally did come out to him, your parents, what was that experience like? Because I know for me, there was like this whole, I guess it kind of opened up a can of worms for like nature versus nurture. And I remember my father saying to me, like, I was, what went wrong? And I was like, what do you mean? And I think people don't talk about this enough in terms of like, they don't factor in the nature of it all. It's more kind of like, oh, no, how were they brought up and what went wrong kind of thing.
Yeah. My coming out story was interesting because I had moved out of home, but I hadn't told my parents yet. But it was at the time where I was moving to Hong Kong. So I had this job that I was going to move there. And so I didn't want them to find out when I wasn't in the country. I wanted to be the one to tell them myself. And coincidentally enough, my parents were going through a separation at the time. And so they weren't on good terms at all. And I think I had lost some respect for my dad and at that point in time. So I didn't care as much about what he thought. And in fact, I thought, and this is terrible to say, but I thought it would hurt him if I came out. And that's not the right reason to do it. But I think I wanted to, have a dig at him. And I thought, what better way than to say,
Okay.
I'm gay.
Yeah.
So I had a very awkward lunch with my parents, saying, hey, before I go to Hong Kong, I need to tell you something. And so I came out to them, and
you're like, here's the bill, bye.
it was Queen's birthday weekend. I remember that. I was thinking, how appropriate. But I wasn't worried about my mother at all. In fact, I thought she would just say, oh, I knew, But as gracious as she is, she's like, oh, I never thought, you don't think of your children in those ways. I think she was trying to be kind or, and then my dad, because I didn't really care what his reaction was, he just said, oh, so does that mean you're going to start wearing women's clothes now? And I said, no, I'm not a drag queen. Little did I know, it was a bit foreshadowing, right?
Yeah.
But I was like still dealing with my identity because I must admit I was a bit, transphobic. I thought, being gay, I had to be this thing, and I wasn't going to associate with all the other types of, people in the community because I didn't know enough, right?
Yeah.
So my reaction was like, you're stupid. I'm not going to be wearing women's clothes. Little did I know.
Love it. So let's kind of dial it back a little bit. You mentioned moving to Hong Kong. How did that all come about? How did you get into fitness from your aerobics championships?
Yeah, well, it's exactly that. So our coach was a group fitness instructor at the gym in the city in Hamilton down the road from where I grew up. And so she would teach classes. And so we'd either do her class before a training for our competitions.
Yeah.
And then when I was old enough, I got a gym membership and then I'd do classes. And then it wasn't long before I was auditioning to become an instructor.
Okay.
So I think I taught my first class when I was like 19 years old. And so I was teaching classes part-time while I was studying media arts and photography at the Polytechnic back there. But during that time, they put out an advertisement about a gym that was opening up in Hong Kong, because the manager at the time was from New Zealand, and they wanted to bring over a bunch of New Zealand instructors to teach Les Mills programs, which is a company in New Zealand that does franchise workouts. And so I put my hand up, not knowing anything about Hong Kong or even where it was.
Right.
And it was the days before like Google was able to give you enough information. So I'd go to the bookstore and get, what are the books that was really popular? It starts with a D, Discover or Travel something. So, you know, trying to figure out where this place was, and had an interview in Auckland in the Big Smoke. And we had a little presentation. We saw some renderings of this really fancy club that was going to open up. And I just said, sign me up. And so I filled out all the paperwork and signed the contracts, you know, with the small information I had. And I had just sat back and waited for a couple months for my visa to come through.
Wow.
So it was my ticket out of New Zealand.
Okay.
Because, you know, it's at the bottom of the world. And I think when you become an adult, your first instinct is to go and travel and see the world. And so that was my ticket out of there.
Yeah. So you're in Hong Kong, a new city, a new life. You're doing your job, teaching classes. You meet me. You met your boyfriend at the time.
Yeah.
Your first boyfriend.
Yes.
I believe. You're exposed to a whole new side of life. Like, he was in fashion. There's all these parties, these events. You know, as a young 20-something-year-old living in Hong Kong, like your fitness career, you know, you're here specifically for your fitness career. It's a whole new world. Were you tempted by this whole new world, this, you know, new kind of flashy, sexy?
Yeah, why not?
You know, like the big city life.
Absolutely. I mean, like, you have to imagine I've gone from, you know, small town New Zealand to a big international city as a young 20-year-old who's a newly minted out queer gay person. So I said to myself, when I moved to Hong Kong, I don't want to have to come out again. So I'm going to live my gay life, my authentic life. And you're right, it was a really fun time. I've met so many interesting people in fashion and fitness, finance, what's another F word, food. But made lots of quick friends, yourself included. And, you know, just, it was like a playground for me. Lots of first experiences, you know, partying a lot, going to these big fashion house parties. And I was like, what am I doing here? You know, like, I've got no business. But it was at a time where it was really hedonistic and, you know, and it was just like a kid in a candy store. I guess one thing that didn't prepare me was my financial literacy. So, you know, I was, you know, spending beyond my means, and, you know, Hong Kong isn't the most affordable city, and there is a bit of a learning curve about how you can, you know, live and work here on the day to day. But I was so young and immature, I didn't care. So, you know, I got myself my first credit card and then was just using it like it was free money, you know, and because my parents never taught me financial literacy. So
they don't really. I mean, well, not specifically to you, but they don't. Well,
not in my experience, and not even, I think in school we learned how to, you know, home economics was cooking.
We learned how to make an apron.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you don't learn how to balance checkbook
or a VCR case. It's like that's what use is that now?
Yeah.
But no, I think it was just a very free time, one of which I'd have to pay for, you know, a few years later.
Yeah. And so, like, how do you balance being in the fitness space and then also kind of being, you know, like a personality? It's almost like, and it's not the same thing at all, but it's like the Paris Hiltons and Nicole Richie's, like kind of going out and partying, like your name was pretty synonymous. You know, you were like almost the face of Pure.
Yeah, and I think it was two things. One, it was burning the candle at both ends. So I was having all this fun outside of the gym, but I was working really hard, teaching multiple classes a week. I think, 20 classes a week was the norm.
That's insane.
And they're not just me coaching up here and you're down there. We're doing it with them. And, you're young enough to be able to handle it. But, those two, you can only do that for so long.
Yeah.
But I think one thing that was a saving grace for me was my job, because you needed to be in good health. You needed to be prepared to do your job. So it was a saving grace for me not to go too extreme on the party fun side, even though I did, try and test the limits, so to speak. Like, full disclosure, and you'd know this, like I'd go out all night because, Hong Kong's open 24/7, and then I'd go home, have a shower, and then go teach a class.
I mean, that's insane. Like I at the time I remember thinking like, how? Like I was there with you, but I would go home to bed.
Yeah.
I wouldn't get up and teach a body pump class straight away. That is insane. So more props to you.
Well, when you get away with it once,
Sure. Yeah.
you think, oh, well, that wasn't bad.
Yeah.
And then it gets bad. But I felt like I got very close to it being really destructive. Luckily, it didn't get to a point where it was like that.
No.
And I've seen it happen to many people in Hong Kong in different industries where Hong Kong can gobble you up and spit you out. And I guess seeing that was a warning for me to just temper it down and find the balance. Because I think I'm a creature of extremes sometimes. Well, I was. Don't know so much now.
Did you ever at any stage feel like because you worked out for a living essentially, that it was just a hamster wheel? You were just kind of, running the tape. Would you go out and do your own workouts outside independent from that? Like, would you still have that kind of passion and fire for moving?
No. So I guess my relationship with fitness and movement, it was a job. It was me on a stage delivering a workout for and with other people. And I used to love that relationship you'd had with your class. It's quite intoxicating and infectious of the energy that you get from, it's two-way street. Yeah. And, you have such an endorphin rush. And I just struggled to find that on my own. So, I mean, I rarely did my own training, and I used to joke the only time I would break a sweat is if I'm getting paid for it. And which is stupid now because, and as I learned later on is, you shouldn't teach to train. You should train so you're able to teach well. So that's doing the work outside of the classroom, and which I did. I'd work on my technique, I work on coaching, and I think just with teaching, you build up the fitness. And as I became a master trainer, a person teaching other instructors how to teach classes, I'd had to walk the talk. But yeah, initially it was just a job. And over the years, my relationship with fitness has changed and evolved.
How so?
More recently, it's become a place where I can just move through, any type of stress or amplify an emotion or work through an emotion, just to escape from the day-to-day. And I think this is true for a lot of people during the pandemic when in Hong Kong, all gyms were closed. I had to figure out a way to to keep moving. So, I'd go for hikes. I'd started running, which I detested before. I just thought running was not for me. But that forced me to, try these things.
You went roller skating.
Roller skating.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I had a bit of concrete out the back of where I lived, and roller skating with a mask on was an experience. But yeah, I mean, it was just a sense of self-discovery, a bit of play.
Yeah.
Which is a departure from my history with fitness up until that point.
So talk to me about 15 years at Pure. It was 15 years, right?
18.
18 years at Pure. Sorry, my research not very good. Me just assuming I know you so well.
It was those early 2000s, babes. It's all blank. They didn't happen.
Okay, 18. Talk to me about 18 years at Pure. I mean, that's even better because that is no small feat. That's not to be sniffed at all. Like, a lot of us, myself included, will be in a job for like 2-3 years and then they kind of move on, especially even still in our generation. And even this generation, I think, are even worse than we are. So 18 years is quite an achievement.
Yeah, I mean, my time at Pure is one that I feel really privileged to have had.
Yeah.
I felt supported. There was investment in my growth.
Yeah.
So many opportunities, especially I was there from the early days when it was a scrappy startup, and right up until as we started expanding throughout Asia. I always felt seen and supported, and I had a lot of cheerleaders in my corner from the executive team. I had fantastic mentors. I mean, Meech Aspirations, who's a fellow Kiwi, she came on board kind of halfway through my time at Pure, and she was really instrumental in kind of getting me to pull my socks up and take on more responsibility and start to think seriously about my career beyond just teaching group fitness. So she was a really big driver in my development into management and as a trainer. But Pure, it's that's why I stayed so long. I had the best time with that company, and I'm still a big cheerleader now after having left. So yeah, nothing but the fondest memories.
Was there at any stage where you were like tempted by doing something else, or were you like headhunted by anybody? Because 18 years again, like, is a long time to be in stimulated, I guess, even somewhere.
Yeah, I guess one of my greatest fears was becoming, an older group fitness instructor and not having any growth beyond what I was already doing. Because I had seen my idols when I started teaching, start to age up, and, whatever they were doing, I'd see some of them burn out or just kind of disappear, and I was afraid of something similar happening to me. I mean, that's just my own limited perspective, because not everybody's sharing what they're doing 24/7.
Yeah.
But I was tapped on the shoulder a few times to see if I'd be interested in moving to other companies, but I quickly learned that if I was going to leave fitness, it'd be when I left Pure, because I just didn't think it could be any better than what I had at Pure.
Yeah.
Which is generally the case. Like, I've seen people leave to try other countries, other companies, and then 9 times out of 10, they want to come back. And yeah.
You talk about the aging up of group fitness instructors or instructors in general. Do you feel that the industry is ageist?
Yes. Yeah. And, but I think, people judge books by their cover, right? Like, in the age of social media, there's all these fitness influencers that, have amazing bodies and, look the part. But that's just the surface. I think once you get past that, you start to appreciate people's experience and knowledge.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when you're in the fitness industry for so long, you're not always motivated to, how do I put this, stay fighting fit all the time. I know so many great minds and people in the industry that have so much to offer that may not necessarily, fit this ideal body type. And I think you need to look past that. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that, the fitness industry is always skewed towards the young and the beautiful.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of the business.
How do you feel the industry's changed over the last 18 years?
Well, I think there's a real big focus on, increasing people's lifespan or quality of life. We live in where the population is aging. And I believe it was Andrew who was on your previous podcast that said that 50 to 60-year-old generation are going to be outnumber the generation before and after. And so, there's huge opportunities in health and fitness and wellness to cater to that population. And I think people are more interested in what health and fitness can do, not just as an appearance, but is how you feel, how you move, your quality of life. Because we want to age feeling good, feeling strong, feeling capable, mobile.
Yeah.
So I feel like the industry is more focused on catering to the audience and also preparing the younger audience. So it's so their habits and routines kind of dovetail into that journey with fitness.
Yeah. And then that's why I brought up the ageist question, because I feel that like longevity is becoming more of a discussion. And I feel like it's being skewed a little bit more towards kind of living longer, living healthier in that respect. So I feel that there are some older faces knocking about, and it's a little bit more acceptable.
I like how you said older faces knocking about, and you really were looking deep into my eyes. No, I mean, it's...
And maybe like Tracy Anderson, who's in her 50s, you know what I mean? Like, and it's not just about like...
Hey, there was an instructor, she's still working at Pure, her name's Beth Narain. She was from South Africa and she was a ballet dancer. She came to Hong Kong, I believe, in the 70s and was like an early DJ club girl, like it girl in Hong Kong, and was one of the first to kind of create group fitness ballet bar classes back in the day. And she still works at Pure now. And her classes, she must be, I don't want to give away her age, but you do the math. Her classes are one of the most popular classes in that club. And, it just goes to show that there's longevity in a career if you really embody it and you can speak from a place of experience. And she's fabulous.
Yeah.
So actually she's one of my idols, I guess.
So speaking of fabulous, Madam Mincemeat.
Yes.
Let's talk about that bitch.
Sure.
How did she come about? Did she just appear one day, or was it something that you were marinating on for a little while? Do you see what I did there?
Yeah, yes, very well. Marinade. I think that might be your drag name. No, I think it was an eventuality. I guess my early exposure to drag was in Hong Kong through the House of Siren. There was a events company that would provide the talent and the production for all of these great parties that would go to, that have all these showgirls and drag queens and
Those
dancers.
parties were insane.
They were, and Greg Durham, who was the owner, creative director, he roped me in to do like, I think an AIDS concern event where I was like a sexy cop, you know, red ribbon cop.
Okay. Like a makeup dancer or something.
No, just, you know, I think I was just giving out condoms
okay.
or something. And then there would be this drag queen that he worked with from New York, Davide, who sadly is no longer with us, nor is Greg, unfortunately. But that was my early exposure to drag in the flesh, and I was just in awe. And like I said, I had this aversion of like being associated with it because I didn't understand it before. And then, so, you know, you start to think about, you start admiring it from afar, and then you start thinking about maybe experimenting with it. And then RuPaul's Drag Race, you know, started to become a thing in culture. And I remember being on a gay ski trip in Whistler. And Tyra Sanchez, one of the queens from the show, was performing. And so, you know, it wasn't too long before a group of friends, I think it was you and some other friends, bought my first pair of heels for a birthday one year. And then I'd be, you know, learning makeup tutorials on YouTube. And so little by little, I'll start learning skills and accumulating little bits of makeup and wigs.
I feel like you would dabble like on Halloween's.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is drag queens are usually born at Halloween or at New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Or those are usually the two main ones. Because it just gives you, especially Halloween, it gives you permission to dress up and no one's really going to bat an eye. Especially in Hong Kong, Halloween is like massive.
Your first one was Rachel Zombie.
That's right. And I've still got a damaged nerve in my toe because I bought a pair of heels that were like a size and a half too small. Rachel Zoe from, you know, the stylist.
Yeah.
And I had this zombie mask. And I'm just, you know, trotting around Lan Kwai Fong in a pair of heels that was too small. But yeah, that was my first kind of, and with the mask, you know, no one could tell it was me.
Yeah.
And then later on, I think another Halloween, I was like, this is terrible sales, like a chola, which would get me cancelled today. But
I
like
mean,
a cultural appreciation, let's say. But yeah, I'm not proud of it. But and then just the attention you'd get.
Yeah. I mean, you committed to that character the whole night.
Let's just not give too many details. But I did get a lot of attention. And because, you know, I'm not the smallest person. And then you chuck a pair of heels and a wig, you stand out. And it was at the time where drag was still kind of like shocking. And so Madam Mincemeat came about for 1 year in Clock and Flap. I think it was 2014. Our
2015.
15?
Oh,
Yes.
I think, yeah. 2015.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was at the Kowloon Cultural District.
Yeah.
And Jay Foster, who is one of the directors of all people who started Clock and Flap, was a friend. And he said, hey, and he had seen me dress up, prancing around town. And he said, oh, how would you think about performing at the Club Minky stage? It's like a little tent, and it's kind of like this quirky setup with hay, bales of hay where people can watch. And I was like, yeah, give me 15 minutes. And so he suggested, he came up with the name Bonjour Poodle, you know, just as a filler, a gap for the lineup. And so I had to come up with a name. And so I think subconsciously I was thinking about like a madam in a brothel, or like an older woman who had seen it all. And subconsciously, I think it was Greg Durham from House of Siren, whose drag name was Madame. I somehow kind of snatched that part of his name as my drag name, not intentionally at the time, but I think it just kind of worked out that way. And then I love alliteration, and then Mincemeat just sound like something stupid and ridiculous. But again, subconsciously, I guess it was like a nod to my dad, who worked in the meat processing factory. So it was like, I guess, the earliest drag influence, and then my dad made this name, Madam Mincemeat.
Yeah.
And I think the character kind of started to grow from that name.
And you've done it for, so that's 2015, a number of years. You've performed at corporate events. You've done the drag brunches. Have you ever thought or wanted to make Madam Mincemeat into a full-time career?
The idea has passed my mind. I guess I've not pursued it because I think it would change my relationship with drag from it being something that I choose and it's fun to a job. But then I also thought deeper and I thought maybe it's my fear of failure, not pursuing it because what if it doesn't work out or it's not received well because, you know, a whole host of fears behind going down that route. But I have been really fortunate to do drag in lots of different capacities. I mean, I did a drag spin class at Pure. Again, Pure just saying, yeah, let's do this and fully getting behind it. And then working with my cis Queen Kong to do the first few drag brunches in Hong Kong with our friend Andrew Quails, who it was his brainchild and he kind of wrangled us and those were some really fun days. And then they just led to other opportunities like doing corporate pride events or emceeing the Hong Kong Marriage Equality Gala fundraiser dinners, which I've been doing since 2021.
Yeah.
So lots of opportunities have come out of it and I probably could parlay them into others. But I think I'm scared. I think I'm scared.
What do you think scares you? Just the fear of failure?
Yeah, and
because actually everyone, whenever your name comes up, and especially in the last couple of years, whenever your name comes up, they're always like, oh, Brad should do drag full time. Is he doing that? I'm like, no, I don't know. So it's a conversation that people have, and straight men love you.
well, they've get to show it in a physical setting. Well, that's really cool to hear, and I think it's just me committing fully. And so, you know, I'm kind of at this point where, you know, it could be a possibility. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess I just overthink it too much. And then when it becomes too stressful, then my immediate response is like, drag shouldn't be that way. But, you know, life is stressful and you have to kind of face challenges.
Yeah.
I'm talking to myself.
But you're really good at it.
Thanks.
And even from like, you know, the Halloweens that you would dress up in and like commit to these characters, again, you're a natural born performer. And you make people laugh and you make people happy. And I think that should be something that you, A, should be proud of, and B, you know, if like a lot of people, if the majority of people are saying that you're great, I think you're amazing.
Well, thank you. It's really good to hear. And I guess that if you boil it down, that's kind of why I do what I do, is to make people feel joy and happiness, whether it's in a fitness class or at a drag event. That's kind of what fuels me.
Yeah.
Because it's, yeah, I think I have a bigger respect for people that, you know, bring joy and laughter and levity.
How does it make you feel when you are Madam Mincemeat?
Yeah, people tend to ask, you know, are you putting on a character? Are you, you know, doing an alter ego? But for me, Mincemeat is just an amplification of your true personality. I think RuPaul says drag doesn't conceal who you are, it reveals who you are. And I think it's true. I think, like, I don't put on a different voice. I mean, I kind of get a bit more sassy and more gesticular, but
You make people do things for you.
yeah, there's a power in it. Like,
Get me a drink. It's one question that I've, one command that I've heard many a time.
yeah, well, you know, I'm not one to abuse power, but when I do, it's for good reason.
I'm thirsty.
No, it comes with the territory.
Yeah.
But no, I think I don't change who I am. Some people do. Like it's a character that they put on. But just I think the way for me to do it with a bit of flow is it's just who I am naturally.
Yeah. You mentioned RuPaul. So Drag Race. You've downloaded the application 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
What has prevented you to enter, and why, when I was trying to make you hold you accountable, did you ignore all of my friendly outreach?
Well, I really appreciate you, writing that because, again, I think, it was for Drag Race Down Under.
Yeah.
And I think it was for the second season. It was just out of COVID. And so I submitted the interest and they send you back a list of things that you've got to prepare. And it's a whole bunch of things like 12 looks. You've got to do these lip syncs. You've got to make something. And, again, that's this thing rising up in me like, oh, this is too hard. And what if I don't do well enough? What if they don't like me? And it's just that beast that kind of got the better of me. And then you start justifying the decision like, oh, it's Drag Race Down Under, so it's probably not going to be seen by many people compared to the US version. And then you start to make peace with it. But, what I do like about anyone putting themselves out there for that show is that it takes guts and it takes nerve, like charisma, uniqueness, nerve, talent. It takes all those things just to kind of put your hand up and say, I'm willing to, put myself in the ring. And so I guess it was at a time where I was unsure about my future in my job in Hong Kong, and that would have been the perfect opportunity or pivot, which I didn't pursue.
It's still there if you
want to. It's never too late, right?
Yeah, it is never too late. On your future and uncertainty, so you've been away from Hong Kong now. You left your 18-year job at Pure. What motivated you to do that, and what have you been up to since?
Yeah, I think it was a tough time coming out of COVID and being in recovery in our industry.
Yeah.
So, lots of things had changed. And I guess it was a signal to me, having been with the same company for so long, that it was time for me to move on. And I had gone as far as I could, I guess, in my role. Like I was director of group fitness, and it was more about thinking about, what could I do outside of fitness? And I guess I just felt like I needed a break. And I was fortunate enough to be able to do that and, move to Australia where my brothers are and just take a year off of not working and just doing some work on myself and just really figuring out who I really am and what do I value and how do I envision the future. And, so that was the main purpose of leaving Hong Kong. And I get that, not many people get that opportunity to step back and take a beat or, take some time to reflect. And in that time I got really close with my brothers and with my 9 nieces and nephews. They all have big families, and so really treasuring that time with them. But I think it was just me wanting to decompress from Hong Kong. I think COVID got a little bit of the better of me, and we all tried to manage it in our own ways.
Yeah.
And I think I was like drinking heavily, and I'd put on a bunch of weight, and I just didn't feel good in my body. And so I think it was just me trying to reclaim myself again. And I didn't think I could figure it out staying put. It was a tough decision, but one that I didn't regret. When I had my resignation, decided to go, it felt right. And I don't have any regrets.
So you're in your spirituality era now.
Yeah, I think we all are trying to figure out how it all works and where we fit into everything. And so, I was reading Eckhart Tolle and just doing some, meditative practice and just figuring stuff out by myself. And it was a really rewarding time. It wasn't easy. It wasn't all like blissful. I mean, I tried to apply for a 10-day silent retreat Vipassana and got rejected because of my alcohol use. They're like, because you're supposed to fill out this application form and be really honest about like, what sort of standard drinks you have per week. And I was like, I'm going to be honest.
Last night.
And I got a call back. They're like, it's probably not the best time for you to come and pursue this. I think you need to, have some time, away from substances and, come back in a couple of months. So,
And can you share with everybody what you did that day after you got rejected?
I went for a hike and a beer. I went for a lovely sunset hike and had a beer with a friend. Not you.
Oh.
Sorry, you weren't invited. But yeah, the spiritual practice is not a straight line or an easy road. You learn things along the way.
Yeah. So you've also, in this time away, you've kind of incorporated new ways to move into your routine, into your morning routine. Share with us a little bit about that, and then we'll talk about how you made me do that as well.
Yes. Yeah. So one of the things that I like to do recently is in the morning, because I think mornings are where I feel the most alert and the most potent. And so what sets me off on a great day is I'll have a cup of coffee and then my brother's got a fridge with this TV screen on it, like one of those fancy ones. And then, it hooks up to YouTube. So I'll like search DJ sets because in my self-discovery era, I'm also not going out or socializing or drinking or anything. So I'm trying to recreate those vibes and those feelings, outside of the traditional arena. So I'll put on a DJ set and then I'll have my coffee and I'm dancing around in the kitchen and just, vibing. And it's just myself. There's no one else in the house. And the dog is watching on, in disbelief. But it's really good to just kind of shake things up and just get blood flowing.
Yeah.
The endorphins start going. And I know it's corny to say, but it really does the job.
Yeah, no, there's nothing quite like it. I think I've shared in a few episodes ago that the last couple of New Year's I've spent it alone at home, and then at 11:59 I'll put on my favorite S Club 7 song and just jive to it with not a care in the world, and then go to bed, and it just makes me feel amazing. No drug or alcohol or whatever could do.
Yeah, and I think that's the light bulb moment. Is I didn't need all of those things.
No.
To feel this way.
Yeah.
And, and you can really just hone in on that feeling and then make it last. So that's one of my favorite things to do in the morning.
Yeah. So we did that together the other morning before you came on to a family forum session of mine. What did you learn about yourself in that session? You've done it a few times.
Yes. So there was two things, the kitchen jam.
Yeah.
What I learned is it felt awkward. I felt awkward because I was like, I'm trying to recreate that experience with someone else, and my best friend. And so I really wanted it to be kind of natural and not forced.
Yeah.
So I at the start I felt a little bit like, oh, is he going to get it? We didn't have any help from, Focusert or anything to just kind of get us on the same wavelength. But I did felt like you're like really open and I just felt safe with you.
Yeah.
And so, and it was nice to be able to like give you a glimpse into what my life is like since I've been away from Hong Kong and from my friend.
Yeah.
And then with Family Form, I remember the early days when it was getting started and then feeling how challenging and confronting that was then. But I felt two things. One, a lot better in my body because my conditioning is a little different now. I've been working on my hip mobility and just being able to move with a little bit more freedom. And so I noticed some progression in myself.
Yeah.
But the second thing is a sense of pride because I saw you leading the class and how far you've come with leading the class. Because, I know the early days, it was like trying to figure out how best to present the program. And you just move with like this grace, like this knowing that I hadn't seen before.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I was just like, wow, blown away.
Yeah. I learned about you that you really enjoy your body.
Who told you?
Like you're so much more comfortable in your skin now. I think that really shows in your movement. You enjoy movement, and that you're more curious with the movement, and it showed in that. It came across in how you approached the sequence. I felt like even when you were unsure, you were sure. You were sure to be unsure, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So yeah, and I was really trying because we've known each other for so long that I'm like, wow, what else can I learn about this bitch?
Yes.
But what I really got out of that session, firstly the dancing session, and then probably like I was amplified in Family Forum, that you're just really self-assured now. Like I think you were before, but I think you were in a sense that there was that performative side, whereas it just seemed a lot less, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it does. And again, we have done many workouts together over the years. And I've always I've said this to you before, and it's something I admire about you, is you have this look on your face. Like when it gets really tough and really intense, it's this steely focus. Like you don't have this vulnerability on you at all. It's like you really go there in your face. And I remember this when we went on, we did CrossFit in Bali. We're in CrossFit in Bali, guys. We've been to Bali doing CrossFit before it was cool. But I wasn't a CrossFitter by any means. And I just remember looking over at you and you were just in the zone.
Yeah.
And it's same with Family Form, because it's hard. Like there was parts where I was like, okay, give yourself permission to pull back and stop.
Yeah.
And then I just see you like there in it, and then it quickly motivates me to get back into it as well.
Yeah.
Because I can't hide this stuff. I give in real easy. Like I mean, yeah, I'm not as tenacious as you.
Yeah, I just have tunnel vision when it comes to working out. Like I'm just, and I know that I'm supposed to be leading this class, and obviously, in the back of my head, I'm like, you cannot stop, no matter if you want to vomit, shit your pants, both at the same time.
Have you shit your pants before?
Almost. No.
I
think I have thrown up a little bit in my mouth.
Oh my gosh.
During a class. But yeah, no, because I have to make sure that everyone's kind of doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I have to make sure that I'm doing the right thing. I have to make sure that the video's on, like I have to be the DJ, I have to be the everything. And I think more difficult when you're not saying anything. People think it's a bit easier, but I think it's more difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know from teaching myself, like being a participant is one thing, but when you're leading, you've got so many other things at play that, you know, your heart rate gets elevated just from the stress of that, along with the workout. So yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah.
But no, I've fully almost shit my pants before. I was doing a cycling class, and I was severely hungover. So, you know, warning, shaky ground. And I didn't feel right in my stomach, and I started the warm up, and I felt something wet in my pants. And so as I'm riding the bike, I'm like, but trying to smell if I had an accident, like fully like, oh no. It's like, plus, you know.
Is it not just sweat?
Well, that's the thing. I had to excuse myself. So, I've forgotten something in the changing room. And I got off the bike. And luckily, the changing room was just around the corner. So, keep going. And then I went to the bathroom and checked my undies. I was like, case is clear. But that was the closest call. Because, yeah, thankfully, I haven't done that. And
my gosh.
if you have, you're human. And that's fine.
On that note, what have you learned about yourself through movement over the years?
I have learned to embrace your body and where it's at that time. A lot of time when I was starting out teaching classes, it was about honing your technique.
Yeah.
Trying to, you know, be good at executing movement. And a lot of the training would be feedback on, you know, arm lines or your toes out, or are you sitting low enough, range of motion, blah, blah, blah. So a lot of being self-awareness around that. But I feel like I've become more in tune with my body over the years, and then more accepting of where it's at any time. And understanding that, you know, you're always a student, you're always learning. Sometimes, you know, you might go for a period where you have regressed, and being okay with that. You know? Of more self-acceptance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That really shows actually in where you are right now as you sit here today, and then also just through your movement.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. We are going to wrap up.
Great.
But I'm going to throw 10 go-to questions at you. Lightning round.
I've seen this part. I'm really excited for it.
Have you prepared?
No.
Okay, your go-to sweat.
Now it's running.
Okay.
I like to listen to a couple of podcasts, this one included, and or like some old school house music, and I'll put together a playlist for the distance that I'll be running, and that's at sunrise or sunset. Those times are when I like to run.
And are you like a marathon runner? Have you done any races?
No, but I've signed up for the Sydney Marathon this year, and training's not going great because I had gout. What?
Oh.
I know. This is what happens, you know, like, and the thing is, I haven't been drinking alcohol or eating a lot of seafood, which is usually the culprits for gout. But anyway, it's kind of put me on the back burner with my training. But yes, Sydney Marathon this year.
So running, go to sweat. Go to treat meal.
Treat meal. I love baked goods, like a croissant, pastries. I love pastries.
Yeah.
So like an almond croissant, anything pistachio.
Ooh, what was that place that we went to in Sydney?
Oh, AP Bakery.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, they incredible. Like, and I know it doesn't sound very original because they seem to have lines at every cool bakery, but I'm in those lines.
Go to self-care ritual.
I like my mornings, like a slow morning. So I try, it's the typical thing, like not to look at your phone for the first half an hour. I'll do a guided meditation. And I like to mix it up. So I've been playing around with different ones. Or just sitting in silence. That's meditating, but like is in the sunrise. Lemon water, Celtic salt. That's my first beverage of the day. Hot water and then green tea, and I won't have coffee until I've been up for about 90 minutes.
Okay.
Have the coffee, do the dance, and yeah, that's kind of like something that really is for me. Yeah, that's
Non-negotiable.
sometimes it's not always the case. You don't get the chance to do all of those things, but perfect morning would include all of those things.
Okay. Go-to travel destination?
I want to go to South America. I've been learning Spanish on Duolingo. Don't ask me to recite some now, but
See.
gracias. But I really want to go spend time in Mexico or Uruguay, Argentina, Chile. I like South America. I feel is calling me.
Yeah. Go to recovery practice.
Recovery practice. I love to float on my back in the ocean. Like
I can't float. I'm too dense.
yes, you are. Ooh, look at you, dance.
That Olympic medalist,
Lauderstein?
Andrew Lauderstein,
Yeah.
who I've invited to be on the podcast. Please answer my message.
Pop the pizza.
Yeah.
Serve the pizza.
He told me that.
that you're
I
dense.
think because I'm too dense. And I was like, bitch, what are you
Was he just calling you stupid? Look at him now, Andrew. Come on the pod.
Yeah, anyway, sorry.
What was the
That's not-
question?
Go to recovery practice. You like to float on your
floating,
back.
I love being in the ocean just before the waves break and then just lying on my back and floating. Like, I don't know if it's a recovery, like that's the closest to a cold plunge you'll get me doing.
Okay.
I'm not getting in a tub of ice.
Really?
Well, I don't knock it till you try it, right?
Yeah. I did 10 minutes in Sierra. I think I was kind of just doing that because, so I had done cold plunge before, but like the longest I'd been in was like 2 minutes or whatever. But I think I was doing it because I was with my boyfriend, and instead of feeling, I was just like, I have the biggest balls in the world. Now they're so small. 10 minutes, look at me. Okay, this is not about me. Go to workout music playlist.
I mix between, depends what I'm doing, but I like house music. Sometimes I like to do trance music.
Okay, any specific?
I don't know. I let
artists?
Spotify tell me what to listen to. Like I'll maybe, because you do this thing where you can search a track and then just let it keep going and then it'll start playing similar tracks. So I guess I'm a slave to AI
Okay.
with my music choices.
Go to book.
Okay, there's a couple. One I just gifted to a friend is The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk, I think is who the author is. It's just about how trauma shows up in the body and some case studies through this guy's career in wellness. Highly recommend. And then the other book is, I talked about Eckhart Tolle, is A New Earth. Because The Power of Now I read during the pandemic, and that was really helpful. And then his other book has been wonderful as well.
Go to guilty pleasure.
Guilty. I don't know if I feel guilty about many things. I'm lazy. I can be super lazy, like bed rot, scrolling on my phone, just lying on the couch for hours at a time. But I like it. Like I've learned to be not guilty about it.
You can, but that's fine. That's okay to do.
Thank you.
I do it as well.
Right? But one thing I do acknowledge is that I've had moments where, you know, you're doom scrolling and then I say out loud, put the phone down, especially when it's just becoming way too much. I mean, you're like looking at dog videos and then, you know, children suffering and then someone talking about crystals and then it's just all too much. And you're just like,
No, I give myself permission to do that. You know, like I'm kind of like carve out like time. If I don't have anything to do, I'm just like, just gonna fester and like scroll on my phone, and it's okay.
I think if you give yourself a period and
I'm going to say that's okay, but just justifying the fact that I'm a lazy pig. Go to mantra or life motto.
it's not that serious. Like, it doesn't have to be that serious.
Yeah.
If you zoom out, because one thing that when I was get stressed or overwhelmed, I'd say, you know, would it matter in 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 years? And, you know, we can get so caught up with the meaningless stuff.
Yeah.
And if you really think about it, it's not that serious. Sure, there's things that we should be taking seriously and being mindful of and being responsible for, but, you know, that's just something that I apply to my everyday life. It's not that serious.
Go to drag performance.
Anything no. I perform for my audience. So I remember, if I know you're going to be in the audience, which is most of the times, it'll either be Madonna or Kylie or something I know that you'll like
Cheryl Cole. I was the only person in that whole tent that knew that song.
No, I just heard you go, ah! I was like, there's my girl.
So what's next for you?
I am, well, I've had my break. I'm looking to see where I want to put my roots down, whether it will be staying in Australia, go to New Zealand, maybe come back to Hong Kong. But I'm really hopeful and optimistic about the next chapter, because I've taken some time out and now I'm ready to not party. I'm ready to work. I'm ready to make some significant moves.
Yeah. Well, I think obviously you know this, but I don't say it to you in person. You're a very talented young man. And I think that you shouldn't be scared. I think that you have a lot of potential and there is a bright future ahead of you with whatever it is you want to do. I think that probably will be entertaining the fuck out of a whole bunch of people, including straight men. Mostly straight men.
Thank you so much.
In a burlesque club. Maybe.
Yeah, coming to a straight bar near you. Thank you. It means so much because you've been such a mainstay of my life, a big support. I'm really proud of everything that you've been doing, and I feel like we are both kind of like spiraling up, right?
Yes.
So thank you. Thank you so much.
Where do people find you?
You can find Madam Mincemeat on Instagram at Madam Mincemeat, and Madam with an M, or Brad Wharakura. Wharakura is Wharakura.
Shirakura, Wharakura.
That's
Thank
me.
you so much for coming on Move Sweat Discover. I can't wait to see what you do next.
Thanks for
Love you.
Love you too.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Move, Sweat, Discover. If you liked the episode, please subscribe and write us a 5-star review. See you next time.